Welcome to 2218 Saturday Night Speaker Meeting. This is an open meeting and all are welcome. We feature members of recovery to share their experience, strength, and hope with us. For 78 years, 2218 has been a self-supporting home to recovery. Our main source of income is our membership. We encourage you to become a pledging member. Feel free to see me or the front desk after the meeting to learn more about this opportunity. The second way 2218 is self-supporting is through our own contributions. Someone will walk around with the basket now. Thank you. Donations help keep our lights, heating, and air conditioning, water and sewer, and maintaining the building, which was originally built in 1887. As we pass the basket, be sure to silence cell phones and electronic devices. Announcements. In June, on June 26th, the third annual 2218 Ride for Recovery is coming up. If you want to know more about that or get your tickets in advance, there's a booth by the front desk. I have asked Chris to read how it works. Yep.
All right. I'm Chris and I'm an addict. If you want what we have to offer and are willing to make the effort to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. These are the principles that made our recovery possible. 1. We admitted we were powerless over our addiction and our lives had become unmanageable. 2. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. We made a decision to return our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. We admitted to God, to ourselves, to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7. We humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. We continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, we promptly admitted it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for His knowledge for His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to addicts and to practice these principles in all our affairs. This sounds like a big order, and we can't do it all at once. We didn't become addicted in one day, so remember, easy does it. There is one thing more than anything else that will defeat us in our recovery. This is an attitude of indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles. Three of these that are indispensable are honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. With these, we are well on our way. We feel that our approach to the disease of addiction is completely realistic. For the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. We feel that our way is practical, for one addict can best understand another addict. We believe that sooner we face our problems within our society in everyday living, just that much faster do we become acceptable, responsible, and productive members of that society. The only way to keep returning to active addiction is to not take that first drug. If you are like us, you know that 1 is too many and 1,000 is never enough. We put great emphasis on this, for we know that when we use drugs in any form or substitute one for another, we release our addiction all over again. Thinking of alcohol as different from other drugs has caused a great many addicts to relapse. Before we came to NA, many of us viewed alcohol separately, but we can't afford to confuse this. Alcohol is a drug, period. We are people with a disease of addiction that must abstain from all drugs in order to recover.
I've asked Kinsey to read the clarity statement.
I'm Kinsey, I'm an addict. We are presented with a dilemma. When NA members identify themselves as addicts and alcoholics or talk about living clean and sober, the clarity of the NA message is blurred. To speak in this manner suggests that there are two diseases, that one drug is somehow separate from the rest, requiring special recognition. Narcotics Anonymous makes no distinction between drugs. Our identification as addicts is all-inclusive, which allows us to concentrate on our similarities, not our differences.
Thanks, Kenzie. If you didn't know, every Saturday except for the last Saturday, which is Medallion Night, 2218 hosts a speaker meeting here. But on the third Saturday, and when there happens to be 5 Saturdays, the fourth Saturday, Phoenix NA, which meets every day except for Wednesdays at 6:30, either here or in that room. Come check it out if you haven't been. Host it, which this is one of those Saturdays. So come check it out. It's great. So that being said, we'll have NA speakers. It's my pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker. He had about an hour to prepare for this, and he's never really spoke before, but Kyle is a really good guy, and I've seen him grow. I've seen him struggle, and I think the best is yet to come for him. Give a hand for Kyle.
So my name is Kyle, and I'm a Virgo and an addict. Really grateful to be here tonight. This is throwing me off guard. I got, like you said, an hour to prepare this, but it's my life, and I know it. So I grew up in East St. Paul. I was born and raised with a family with one sister, one half sister, my mom and my dad. Growing up for me, I played a lot of sports, lived what I would call like a normal childhood life. There were some things that happened in my childhood that I didn't really put together until later in life. My dad was very verbally abusive, very physically abusive toward me and my sister growing up. I deal with a lot of trauma, because of these things. But growing up, like I said, I played a lot of sports, so I put a lot of my anger into sports, and then later on started putting it into music. Around the age of 8, I got involved in playing music for a like orchestra music, playing clarinet. And my childhood was, like I said, pretty average, normal stuff. I remember a lot of times coming home and my dad being so angry, not knowing why he was so angry, and getting told to stand in the corner and look at that corner for 10, 15, sometimes 30 minutes at a time. And I was always very scared of my dad. One time I just wanted to go to school so bad, and that's all I wanted to do. And I had to do my chore before I left. And I did the chore and tried to walk out the door to go to school. And my dad pretty much broke my leg in the door as I was out the door, grabbed me, slammed me on the ground, slammed the door on my leg, and that was something that I really struggled with, accepting that my dad had so much power over me in my life, and there's nothing I could do about it. Going forward, my parents split up a couple times from 0 to 13. 13 was the last time that my mom had finally had enough. My mom was very silent. She was the mom that stayed on the couch, read her books, kept quiet, and didn't let my dad. Well, I don't know. She didn't say anything. My dad did all the parenting, I guess, more like yelling and being physically aggressive, but my mom didn't do anything about it. So when I was 13 years old, 13, I tried weed for the first time. That summer, I had also tried alcohol for the first time. My mom and dad had finally split up for good, and I spent a lot of time with my friends, pretty much staying at their house. And, I never really understood why my mom didn't stand up to my dad, but that came later on in life. She was very depressed and didn't know how to deal with it. And I became very depressed and very antisocial, because of my dad's torture. But I found a release in weed and alcohol. I found a way to relate to my friends. I found an escape from my life at the time. So I started living with my friend Kenny. He's a really good friend of mine. I knew him since I was in fourth or first grade. And when my parents split up, my mom was left with all the bills to pay the house, pay for the house, pay for everything. And at that time, she had become so defeated in her depression that she wasn't able to do it anymore. She stopped working. So I lived in the same house until I was 13 years old. Grew up in the same neighborhood. And my mom told me and my sister that we were losing that house. So I pretty much was hit with, all right, Kyle, you have two choices. You can stay with one of your friends if they'll take care of you, or we can all go to a homeless shelter. And of course, I wanted to live with my friends because then I'd be staying in my neighborhood, I'd be staying in the same school district, and that's where I was comfortable at, and I could smoke weed and drink. Mom didn't really care about it. So from there on, I've pretty much been raising myself with guidance from my friends' families that took me in when I needed a place to sleep, a couch to crash on. When I was like 15 years old, I went from just smoking weed and drinking alcohol to taking pretty much whatever was in front of me. Vicodin, Percocets, Adderall, lots of Adderall. And I mean, anything that came up, I was willing to try it. So I spent a lot of time just hanging out with friends, doing new drugs, and getting by. Not really even knowing what depression was yet, what anxiety was yet. And so when I was like 15, 16, I had an opportunity to live with my mom again. And I took that opportunity and could only deal with it for about 3 months. I went from living in East St. Paul to Apple Valley, Minnesota. And I grew up with a lot of diversity. I was the maybe one of two white kids in my class, to going to Apple Valley where I've never seen so many white people in my life. So I didn't know how to fit in when I moved out there. And of course, I'm the East St. Paul kid. So the kids found me and they thought, okay, this guy came from East St. Paul. He must be some kind of badass. Well, they all smoked weed and I smoked weed and we drank and we started doing K2, tried bath salts, all sorts of stuff, became really close with these guys. They welcomed me into their school and made me feel like I had friends. It really only lasted so long before I kind of had enough and I wanted to go back to St. Paul. I remember the first time I tried committing suicide. I was in Apple Valley, hadn't been to school in about 3 weeks, and I tried hanging myself. My sister thankfully found me and was able to get the help with my mom to get me to a hospital. And I spent maybe 3 or 4 days in the hospital. I talked my way of getting out of there because I didn't want to be there. That I didn't need it. It wasn't for me. I was just being stupid at the time. I just wanted attention. I mean, really, that's what it was for me. I just wanted the attention that I didn't get as a child. So going back to Apple Valley after that hospital stay, I spoke with my mom about, potentially living with one of my friends on the east side. Around this time, my father had came to me and said that he was stable, that I could come stay with him if it came down to it. And that's what happened. The first day I got there, within 8 hours, we had gotten to a physical altercation, and the power was taken from me again. I remember the police coming and seeing that I had a black eye and a cut on my face, and them telling me that it was okay. That it was okay for my father to hit me. And there was nothing I could do about it. So, thankfully we have cell phones, and I was lucky enough to have a cell phone around this time, and I called my mom right away. I said, "Mom, I need you to come get me. I can't stay here anymore." 8 hours in, so I got out of there. I started living with another family friend, someone that I grew up with from when I was like 4 years old. And it was okay. I spent a lot of time smoking weed on their couch, until they got a room set for me, and just pretty much was smoking a lot of weed and drinking. Um, Now this was my freshman year at high school, and throughout my 8th grade year, I think I attended maybe 100 days out of however many days. I was so truant. So I'm back in East St. Paul, and life is going okay for a little bit. And in high school, things are new. Things are more different than I've ever experienced before. I have to meet new people. I have to adjust to my circumstances as they are. And I did it pretty much by finding the people that smoked weed and drank. This led me to trying LSD for my first time, and I loved that. I never really felt so attached with the world, and some of the conclusions I would draw from it were just beyond crazy. But that was my thing for a couple months until I felt pretty fried. Um, so I fast forward a little bit. That summer, I had tried meth for the first time in my life, and this was with a really good friend of mine, who passed away a few years back from carfentanil. And I tried it one time, and I didn't feel like I was hooked. It was a great night. I didn't see any sort of bad things happening with meth, but I kept that in the back of my head that maybe I was different. That meth had no hooks on me like it may have on other people. So I went 2 years without doing it after that. So in my junior year, I had 4 credits to my name. One of them being gym, and I had a choice to make. With how truant I was, with how much feeling that I would never be able to finish school, all of that stuff, I made the choice to drop out of high school. So my mom and my guidance counselor at the school pretty much said, "Okay, well, this is a bad decision. You're just going to be another dropout," and that pissed me off. And I took that, and I said, "Well, let's do it. Let's drop out. I'm going to do it." So I dropped out and took their words and took that initiative, that anger that I was thriving on for about a month. It took a month to get my GED, which they both said that I wasn't going to be able to do, that I wasn't smart enough. I had 3 credits to my name, or 4 credits to my name my junior year. So I took that and I ran with it. Around this time, I had met a girl named Kenzie Dirks, and we started doing Xanax together, Percocets, weed, and I was selling weed. I was pretty much selling anything I could get in bulk at the time. And was pretty much doing this with my friend Justin. And so how this all ties together is Kenzie ended up becoming who is referred now as my baby mom. She got pregnant, and little did I know, she was on and off. When she was on and off with me, she was messing around with my friend Justin. So I thought for sure this was my kid, and we got back together, and I put all my time and effort into making sure that I was going to be a stable man. I got my license. Like I said, I got my GED, and I got a job, and I started saving up money. We started living with each other in her dad's house in Matamidi. He just got out of prison and was an ex meth addict. Turns out he was doing meth the whole time when we were there. So the kid, probably about 2 months before the kid was being born, I had thoughts that the kid might not be mine, and that I needed to get a DNA test done to be sure. So when Ava was born, we got the DNA test done, and I told myself if it wasn't my kid, then I was going to leave. And my family, my mom, my grandpa, and all of them pretty much told me that if I didn't leave her at that time, that they would disown me, which was not really a good threat because, you know, I grew up from 13 on pretty much being on my own with family friends. I felt like I was disowned. Why did it matter now? So it took 2.5 months to get the results back. It wasn't my kid, but I spent 2.5 months being there for this kid, changing diapers, seeing first moves, smiles, and all those kind of things. And I had promised myself beforehand that I was going to leave her if it wasn't my kid. I didn't want to leave, so I didn't. So around this time, turns out women are really fertile right after having a baby. And I got her pregnant with my kid, I guess. That happened really fast. So as we're preparing for the arrival of Ashton, we decided to move out of her dad's house and get our own place. This is the first time I've ever had a place of my own, that I was on a lease. It was a huge step for me. I was doing smoking a lot of weed still. That was just the common thing to do. Popping Adderall, snorting Adderall so I could get to work and stay at work more hours, as we prepared for the baby to come. And when we got the house, it was like I had defeated everyone who doubted me. I had defeated my family. That I had defeated the guidance counselor that told me I couldn't do anything with my life. And when I got further along in my Adderall and Xanax use, the more I started to slip and let go of the things that really mattered. So we went and we moved in 2 months before Ashton was born. Or no, maybe it was about 6 months. I spent so much time trying to work and trying to figure out more ways to make money, more ways to just have an income so I could be supporting the family. Because I dealt with a lot of things like, I'm never going to be like my family. I'm never going to be like them. I'm going to be supporting this kid until they're 18 or maybe longer than that. I wanted to do it better than my parents did for me. But the Xanax and Adderall had caught up, and I lost a job, and I moved on to another job, and it pretty much went through like 3 or 4 jobs in 2 months, because I couldn't hold on to myself. So we were hit with the baby's arrival being, I think, like 6 months down the road, and we made the decision to close the lease. It was a month-to-month lease, and move to North Branch, Minnesota, with her family, with her mom and her grandmother. Little did I know, like, North Branch is like the meth capital of Minnesota. So when we moved out there, we had high hopes. I found a job right away working at Domino's. Still doing a lot of Adderall, still smoking a lot of weed, still drinking, still popping Xanax. And one day I ran out of Adderall. So her mom was a meth dealer. There's always people in and out of the house. And I knew that I was out of Adderall and I wanted to feel the rush of amphetamines. So I, told Kenzie, I was like, hey, I'm going to go ask your mom if she'll sell me some dope. She was okay with it because we were both out of Adderall and we wanted more Adderall. So we just went with meth. And like I said before, when I was 17, I did it once and I thought that I was different, that it had no chemical hooks in me. So I started doing meth instead of Adderall because it was easier. I was a functioning addict for around 6 months with meth before everything. My job, my car, my family, everything was set aside for meth. And I had become so beaten down by my addiction, so depressed, that I wanted to give up on the world. And I had another suicide attempt at this time. Me and the baby mom had split, and I moved from North Branch to West St. Paul with friends that I grew up with. I always bounced back to my friends. They were always there for me. And their terms were, just don't do meth, Kyle. You can smoke weed, you can drink. That's fine. We don't want you doing meth down here. It took 2 weeks for me to get back on meth because I knew where to get it in St. Paul, just like I knew where to get it in in North Branch. So I got kicked out of the place that I was staying at, and went to my baby mom and asked her if we could try to make things work. So we did. I moved back out there. Things went good for a while. We stopped doing meth together for about 3 or 4 weeks, and we were making things work. And it's going so well. We had like a kind of like a little homecoming or a home warming party that I was back in North Branch. So we had my friends over, and I asked my friends why couldn't Ryan make it, and they said, "Oh, you didn't hear? He passed away 3 months ago." Little did I know, one of my best friends had passed away, and I didn't know nothing of it for 3 months. And it took a really huge toll on me at that time, that I wasn't present in my friends' lives, and I also felt like they weren't present for me. So it only lasted for me and my baby mom when we got back together, maybe about a month before everything fell apart again, and we were both doing meth, constantly fighting, constantly arguing, and it got to the point where I wanted to spend more time playing video games, or I just wanted to do more meth, that I wasn't spending any time with my newborn daughter, with my non-biological daughter, or Kenzie as a whole. While we were still together, this is important, I guess. Ashton had got sick. My biological daughter had got sick, and she was lethargic. We thought she was dying, so we brought her to the hospital. And Wyoming Hospital wasn't a great spot. They weren't even able to stick her, and it was really painful to watch them try to stick her and get a blood draw over and over again. It was a really painful moment, and me and Kenzie were both coming down from meth, and it was just a horrible experience overall. And I remember them telling us that they have to bring her down to Children's Hospital in Minneapolis, where she would get the care that they could not give her at that time. So we signed a bunch of paperwork. They got her in the hospital, or they got her ready to go in the ambulance. And I remember Kenzie telling me that she wanted to be the one to go home and get the overnight bag, and that there was meth at home that she needed to get for while we were there. She didn't have a license at the time, so I pretty much said, no, like, this isn't about that right now. Our daughter is sick. And so I, got that all together, went down there. Ashton is okay. She made it out of that. It was just a really traumatizing experience. I spent 3 days with her in the hospital, living off of Pizza Luce and her smiles. It was a really scary moment as a young adult parent. So a little bit after that, we, had split up again, and this time it was for good. I had nowhere to go, so I went back to St. Paul and moved into another one of my friend's house for the second or third time, and started doing meth. That was the one rule: don't do meth. And I just started doing it, and I got away with it for a couple months before it finally caught up with me, and the family was so disgraced with the way I handled it. I told them that this is the place where everybody does drugs, not knowing how much like that would really hurt them. and they kicked me out. I mean, for all the right reasons, they kicked me out. But these are people that like have been in my life since I was like 3 or 4 years old, and I said that to them, and I didn't realize that I was saying it to them because I was so lost in my addiction. So I had went to treatment for the first time at Berkwood and sought help. Got out of there. Actually, I got kicked out of there now that I think about it. 34 days in, I asked, when am I leaving? And it became a problem, I guess. I don't know. I was probably saying something like some kind of smart ass remark, and they ended up just kicking me out of there. But I took the learning experience, the 30 days that I had to my life. I applied it. So I got a job right when I got out of there, and I moved in with my father. This time he wasn't physically aggressive toward me. He didn't, put his hands on me, because I was an adult now, I guess. And I made it probably 3 or 4 weeks before I started doing meth. Lost that job. It was just a common reoccurring thing for the next 2 years. Then I went to New Way House 1 2 years ago. And this is where I finally sat down and did the amount of time. I wasn't in no rush to leave there. I got a lot of help from them. But before that, I was at New Way outpatient, and I had a counselor. I was there for about 4 months. I had a really great counselor who was really down to earth, and I felt like I connected with him, and I was very honest throughout my time of being there before I had to go to inpatient. One day I just didn't show up for group, and then it was 3 days later I was still not in group. My counselor had emailed me and asked me what's going on, and I told him that I needed help, that I was using and it wasn't going to stop. So that's how I ended up landing at New Way House 1. After graduating there, I had a choice to go to New Way Outpatient or a place called Evergreen Recovery. More like an Everclean Recovery, to be honest. That place, I went there before, and it wasn't good. It was I was using the whole time, and I had friends there that were using the whole time, and it was pretty much just getting away with it. But I chose to go back there for some reason. Meth didn't start right away for me, but weed did. I started smoking weed my 3rd day out, and it made it that much easier for me to crave meth because weed wasn't good enough for me. Meth was where it was. And around this time, I tried heroin also because people there were doing that. And I got really hooked on heroin really fast. I had one friend that OD'd in front of me, and I had never dealt with that before. I had to Narcan him, and I didn't know how to do it. And I'm an IV user, so I tried shooting him up in the arm. And it worked, thanks to the Lord, that he came back to life. But that was the scariest moment for me in my life, to be honest. He was dead in front of me, and I didn't know what to do. I panicked, and luckily we had Narcan to save his life. From there on, I pretty much vowed to never do heroin again. I had lost my friend Ryan to that, and another friend that I met in Apple Valley to heroin. So where I'm at today in my life, I'm in outpatient treatment. I've been there for, I don't know, like 8 months or so, and things are starting to look good for me. I made it to 6 months clean for the first time in my life while I was there, because I was doing the work and I was getting connected to people, and I was talking to people and I was reaching out, and I got a sponsor and I started working the steps. But my recovery wasn't at the first or at the front of what I had going in my life, because I still dealt with my ego. I had a really hard time figuring out what ego really was for me. I think I still don't know what it is, but it's easier to deal with it now. I know what I need to do. So I had relapsed about 105 days ago, and I didn't want to be honest about it. My addict mind didn't want me to be honest about it. So I challenged that, and I reached out to my sponsor, and he talked me into telling my counselor, which then talked me into telling my house manager. Oh, which I was a house manager at the time too. Completely forgot that. I had all these good things going. I was working a job, just became a house manager, and I decided to use drugs because I don't know why, to be honest. Things were going good. That's when I seemed to want to relapse. But where I'm at today is I spend a lot of time going to meetings. I spend a lot of my time throughout the week, pretty much going to a meeting every single day. I put more effort into doing my step work. I was doing about a step a week for the last 2 weeks, but I'm just kind of waiting to present that or whatever. But I do a gratitude journal because that was something that was told to me I should do. And a lot of times it's not even like, it's kind of like just a normal journal. Like today's entry was F this, F that, F this, F that, but I ended it with 3 things I was grateful for to keep me in the mindset of gratuity. For the last 102 days, every Tuesday, I've been going to church at Serenity Village. And there's a great pastor there. His name's Pastor Jeff Hill, who had always said, and says about every single time I'm there, who's grateful to be alive and out of jail? It was about 3 or 4 weeks ago where that finally hit me, that I'm grateful to be alive, that my friends aren't alive because of addiction. And then I'm grateful for a lot of things, mostly to be alive and to be able to do this and hopefully change someone else's life. Because I find a lot of joy in helping people, and I think that's my purpose. So, I mean, that's my life. I probably missed a lot, but pretty nervous, and I only had an hour to present this. So, thank you.
Let's give another round of applause for Kyle. We have about 20 minutes, so if anyone wants to come up and ask questions, give feedback, or just do a call-up, that's cool. If you want to just come up and share anything, that's awesome.
You go ahead.
No, I'm not doing that. I talk enough. Murdoch? Come on up. I know you got something. You always got something. Well, that's all right. We can close then. Why don't you guys help me close with the gratitude statement?